Welcome, special episode. I want to let viewers and listeners know about how the Feral Philosophy project is going. This has become a really big part of my work. To me, it feels like the culmination, really, of life's work and something I was made to do. It's really strong sense of purpose with it. It's the kind of the same feeling I got before the Ukraine project, which is wrapped up brilliantly. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And also the Embodiment conference, nearly 4 years ago now, which, there's this feeling of sort of being on purpose and things aligning and having lots of energy for it. And yeah, it's going really well. So what's my starting point for it? You may have been like coming to this, never heard of it. Some of you have probably already seen the new YouTube channel and it's gearing up. So my main starting point personally is as a young man, I was pretty depressed, very addicted, suicidal. I lost my role model, a cousin called Jason, to suicide. And it really darkened my view of the world. And I certainly didn't want therapy. And luckily, actually, I remember my mum suggesting therapy, and I was like, bugger off. And I was really angry about the idea of it, super stigmatized back then. And still, I think today, young men don't want therapy. I was very lucky. I found martial arts, later other forms of exercise. I found embodiment, and it really helped me. It really gave me a strong sense of purpose and what I was doing, and gave me discipline. That led me to quit drinking and other things. I was super lucky, to be honest, to have found that. And I think young men today are in an equally bad way as I was. In fact, I'd say today it's the norm. If I walk past young kids and they're not smoking drugs, teenagers, and I live in a nice town, but even there, I'm surprised if they're not smoking drugs. There was a young guy that was having a ketamine overdose on a Friday afternoon here, and my friend from Italy was visiting. She was like, "What the hell? Is this normal?" I was like, "Yeah, it is normal here." And I think around a lot of the world, since COVID particularly, I think there's various influences on this, some economic, social media, some cultural, making masculinity bad and toxic and wrong. There's a whole bunch of influences, but what it's led to is just kids having terrible mental health. And boys in particular don't seem to be able to reach out. And a lot of the traditional things and even the more kind of modern new agey things like mindfulness and yoga, it's just not for them. It's just not for them. So, the other thing that's been happening is the last 3 years I've been going to the gym very heavily, and I've noticed a lot of young guys in there who have a more positive vibe. They're, more outgoing, they've got friends, it's difficult to be depressed at the gym. It's the exercise just chemically is helpful. And then beyond that, there's a whole bunch of other factors like anyone who seriously lifts weights gets interested in their sleep and their diet and their stress levels because you have to. So it's a really positive kind of spreading factor. And often, sort of delayed gratification, discipline, those kind of things, they're often at the root of solving a lot of problems, whether it be addiction stuff or, studying or whatever it is. So I thought, hang on a minute, there's an opportunity here to promote the gym, but in a more holistic way. So I got a lot from Aikido, not just because it was exercise, but because it was a dojo. There's this idea of developing the person. And this is a very old idea, actually. The Greeks had this idea, certainly the samurai had this idea, yoga's based on this idea that one develops oneself through exercise. One develops the character, we would say. Sort of, the character is sort of very old-fashioned in a way, but the Victorians also definitely had this idea. But it's been really lost in a lot of modern sports and fitness culture. And the other thing, of course, is as an embodiment coach, what I'm doing in the gym has got a different layer to it. So about a year ago now, various mums I know, mostly single mums, started saying, "Can you take my son to the gym?" They're really keen, "Can you take him? Take him." Smart women understand that even if they're doing their best, their boys particularly need men. It's just that. That's just the way it is. That's across cultures. It's just the way it is, no matter how good a job mums are doing. So these women were like, "Can you take my son?" So eventually I said, "Okay, it's not really my job, but fine, I'm going to the gym anyway." And I loved it. Just as a natural mentoring, it came out. I noticed, on some of my workshops when young men turned up, it sort of lit me up personally. And there's a very naturalness to mentoring and to coaching across that sort of, same gender but with different ages. So I started taking these guys to the gym, and I started realizing what I was doing there was a bit different. I was doing sort of trauma informed, and instead of doing just a bench press for chest muscles, we were doing it for like boundaries. It'd be like no pose in toolkit if people have come across that. Yesterday I was doing a session with a young man. We're doing a pull down. It was what do you want to bring into your heart, and it was so touching. He actually said his mother, and I thought that is beautiful. It's just so beautiful that he said that. He's got a really good mum, this kid. But he was also, what do you want to push away? And he was saying, "Oh, my mate's getting me to do stupid stuff, and the drugs. This kid had some drug issues, and it was like pushing that away, feeling that no, that boundary to that." which is wonderful. And I worked with two kids yesterday in the gym, and I've been doing this for a few months now. Different guys, sort of 15 to 25, something like that age range, and they just are so hungry for it. They're so hungry for it. But as ever, much as I love taking my friends' sons to the gym now, it's a sort of regular part of my week. I just give them an hour of my day when I'm working out anyway. I want to scale it. For me, I do big things. I do epic shit. That's just how I'm wired. And now I've sort of recovered from I had quite a lot of difficult year last year. Financial worries and health issues, and went through a breakup. And this year I'm sort of feeling like much more myself again. It's like, you know what? It's ready for something big. Let's scale the shit out of this. So the first thing I did is I made a YouTube channel, because that's, a lot of young men are on YouTube. That's the language they speak. We've got an editor from India who works in fitness, Swapnil, who's great. I've started putting loads of energy into that. Then I realised, well, hang on a minute. If I put too much energy into this, my company's going to go bust. I have to put energy into my company. My day job is selling coaching, and that's all going fine now. But it's you've got to keep your eye on the business. And I thought, well, okay, August is always a quiet month because we mostly do online learning. Quiet month in August, I can devote myself to it in August, and I've got enough money in the bank that I don't need to get paid for it. But then I started thinking, all right, what if we made this really big? What would it take to win the internet? Because there's so many like toxic influences. Tate's the most famous one, but there's many others that I think aren't a great influence on young men. They've got really professional video. I was thinking we need a Substack for the ones who read. That's a little bit more, intellectual in that way. TikTok, which I've never done before. I thought we're going to need professional editors, professional video editors, and we need to put the marketing team behind it, our own, and maybe some outside people as well. And then I thought, we need to raise funds for this. And luckily, we've already done that once before, twice before. So in Sane Ukraine, we had like a startup fund, and some of that we used for medical supplies, but some of that was just getting me to Ukraine and doing the project there, the venue and stuff like that for the training. And that's completely self-sustaining now. Like, I'm very, very happy with where I haven't even left the project, but the people there that do it now, they barely need me. I'm just sort of moral support occasionally. They just did their first 2 teacher trainings without me, using a lot of the content I taught them. And again, I support them, supervision. They've done great. But I'm particularly proud of that project because it's completely self-sustaining. They've got grants and they've got income streams and different things. So they don't need me to keep flying there. They don't need me, in any way other than just being like, kind mentor. The Embodiment conference as well. We also fundraised we did a crowdfunder that was so stressful, but it actually went really well. We made like 150K in the end, and that enabled us to buy what we needed to get the conference to happen. And then all the people who did the crowdfund, they got recordings and different things. So we're doing the same for this. So I would say, if you want to get involved, if you want to support young men, I think we can be a really good influence on them on the internet. But then it's also, I'm talking to like a really top PT, like a physical trainer, a gym trainer in London who's a really top guy in that field. And we're already planning to do the first like training for PTs to sort of disseminate the idea of the gym as a mental health dojo. It's really mental health, purpose, discipline. They're the main things. That's what young men need. So to disseminate that idea, to get that idea out, in the real world through PTs. Also want to make an online group so I can have guys do that. What else are we going to do? We've got a whole bunch of ways to do it, and a lot of them are virtual, but then there's some real world ones as well. I think you can't remove that. Yeah, so the YouTube channel's already off to a good start. We've already got its first few thousand views, and that's kind of, the young guys like it. The editing, if you look at it, for some of our regular viewers, go to Feral Philosophy YouTube, you can search it. What you'll find is it's quite different. It's not my normal kind of coaching. It's got fast music and the images that are much more kind of aligned with young men's sort of typical YouTube videos. So I've had to learn a whole new skill set, but it's going good. I've got some good advice. So that's the start, but there's a lot more assets we want. There's a lot more ways we want to put this into the world. So we're fundraising, and the nice thing about a crowdfunder is you don't ask for money for nothing. I mean, yes, people want to help. We've already had, I think, 7 people offered to be what we're calling dragons, who give like $1,000, and we know it's going to go reasonably well. Takes the pressure off a little bit, but we probably need to raise something like 30K for all of the things to get it going, and then it's seed funded like the Ukraine project. So it's less money than we had to raise for Ukraine or for the Embodiment conference, but it's still a chunk. It's not, I can't afford to fund that myself. I can afford to work, but not fund it all. And people on the team that do editing and do marketing, I have to pay those guys, right? Like they're professionals. They're a single mother in Hungary, that's a salary, So stuff like that. Yeah, so we're fundraising for that. And the nice thing though is that we give bonuses. So the bonuses are things like coaching and courses and vouchers for the shop. And if you're interested in embodiment, that just makes sense. If you've been wanting to get coaching from me, for example, this is a chance to get it effectively cheap and support a good cause. As I said, we only about every 2 years do like a pitch like this. I think this is one that will help a lot of people. We can reach 1 million guys. I imagine 1 million healthy, strong young men, and I just think that's a brilliant fucking thing. That is like an army to change the world. That is a force for good. 1 million strong, happy, healthy, on purpose young men. That's amazing. And also from a personal point of view, I think, what if we saved 100 young guys from killing themselves? Which is not unimaginable with the kind of reach we could have. It's not unimaginable at all. And I think, every suicide, particularly of a young person, is a tragedy. I've sat with my best friend's parents after they killed themselves, and that is not something you ever want to do. It's not ever something any parent wants or anyone wants. There's still ripples from that suicide nearly 20 years later. It's huge. It's huge. So if we can stop that, and if we can have this positive difference on 1 million guys, which is really possible numbers if we do this well. We've had more, for example, we're going to start a new podcast, right? And I've got a whole lot of big fitness guests already lined up. For example, Mike Israetel, people might know if they have anything to do with fitness. He's like the biggest name on YouTube in fitness. A guy called Zuby. And it like 1 million views on YouTube, we can do that. We've already had that for this channel. Look at the views on this channel. It's way more than 1 million. Same with the podcast. The podcast has had at least 3 million. Last I checked 6 months ago, it had 3 million downloads. So it'd be probably 3.5 by now. So we know we can do this. We've got the track record. I've got the track record of organising stuff, of doing good projects that work. Yeah. So frankly, it's like, if this is something you're passionate about, get involved. One thing you do is just spread the word. If you go to Feral Philosophy and look at YouTube, and you can like the videos and comment on the videos, and the algorithm likes that, right? So if you've got no money, if you're skint, you want to help, just support us by sending the videos for the young guys. There's really accessible formats, like we call them pre-workouts, where on the pre-workouts, to gear guys up before going to the gym, and then we sort of Trojan horsing meditations and self-care and meta stuff, meta meditations. It's all Trojan horsed into the post-workout cool downs. We have a bit of philosophy in there, a lot of psychology. So it's really useful stuff, but in a format that guys will like. So that's what you can do if you're skint. And if you've got some money, give it to us. We'd like it. We'd use it well. And yeah, as I said, the amount of impact we can have compared to major charities and stuff for what they do is, they'll take your money that's mostly going to admin. It's not the case here. It's not the case here. So yeah, and as I said, if you want coaching from me or free courses or me to be involved in something you're doing, that comes with it. We've got different tiers. If you go to embodimentunlimited.com, you'll see all the tiers, all the things you can get. We've given them cute names like unicorns and dragons and just fun stuff. But you'll see each of them is pretty loaded with stuff. So if you like this channel, I'd say it's kind of a no-brainer, even if you didn't want to support a good cause, just from that point of view. Obviously, if this is your cup of tea. So as I said, you're not going to get a pitch from me like this every week. As it's usually once every 2 years, we do a charity project like this. And I think it's a good one. My heart's behind it. It's been an emotional process to kind of get into it. But the young guys we're working with, they really light up. They really light up from it. And they don't want to do therapy. They don't want to do yoga. They're not necessarily going to meditate unless we can trick them into it after the gym. We do those things. And I think it's super positive thing. So yeah, if you want to join us, you want to get involved, embodimentunlimited.com, you'll see a big link there up the top. And it's all over the socials. And Feral Philosophy YouTube is up. That's the first asset we've got up. There'll be more, but there's the first one if you want to sort of peek to see if it's your cup of tea. So thank you for listening.